So Guibault will be on your right, Naskrent will be on your left. Reanimator versus Blood Red Delver, and shortly we'll be underway as I don't think a draw would be the best choice for these guys sitting in 7th and 8th place, and you've got Ken and Haas in 9th place with the same amount of points. It's pretty risky.
Really risky, especially with both of them at the bottom of the X1s right now.
Yeah, so it looks like they reconsidered their decision and decided, all right, let's do battle. And so that's what we're going to see happen here between these two players. We'll see who's on the plate, who's on the draw. It looks like Naskrent is going to take a mulligan, which is something the Reanimator deck actually does quite a bit, and so it's not that big of a deal because, again, this deck is highly explosive in what it can do.
And a lot of moving parts. You got to find a way to get something in your graveyard, and then you have to find some way to get it back. There isn't a ton of redundancy with those two slots, and so mulligans are fairly common.
Yeah, and again, as my limited experience of playing this deck at Grand Prix Washington, D.C., I didn't mind aggressively mulliganing for cards like Entomb, Reanimate. I know that there was a game where I just mulliganed to 5, where I was aggressively trying to mulligan into a turn 1 guy because it had Lotus Petal in the deck, and it just all came together of having Entomb, Reanimate, Lotus Petal, a land, and the other card doesn't matter, and being able to just put a Gristlebrand into play on turn 2 because the deck can mulligan aggressively and get that combination of cards.
Yeah, it's really surprising to me that Reanimator fell off the radar to the extent that it did. I know for a while there were so many Snapcaster, Surgical Extraction style control decks that were really hateful towards Reanimator. But now a lot of these decks lean on Deathrite Shaman, and you don't see as many Tormod's, Crypts, and similar cards as you once did. So,
yeah, I mean, you do have to get a little creative to work your way through a Deathrite Shaman, as we're going to see. Naskrent's going to start off with an Island and a Ponder. Because Deathrite Shaman can be a little bit annoying and frustrating to try to work your way around, but there are certainly tools to do that. You can, play removal spells or bounce spells like Echoing Truth and Repeal, Pithing Needle, things like that. You can beat one, but you certainly can't, ignore it and try to just overpower it. Sometimes you try to take the show and tell route, which can work, but again, there are risks associated with that as well.
So the ways to get an early large creature in the graveyard, basically Entomb and Careful Study. Those are the main routes.
Yeah, those are the two big cards. Entomb, of course, being the better of the two, because it lets you find exactly what you're looking for. But you're going to find in this list that there are also 2 main deck show and tells, and the other 2 are in the sideboard. So you've got 10 ways to actually cheat a creature into play between 4 Exhume, 4 copies of Reanimate, and then 2 show and tell. Some versions have Animate Dead, but it's a little bit riskier to play that card when Abrupt Decay is a card in the format.
Mm-hmm.
So you see Naskrent is just going to play a Misty Rainforest past the turn back. Guibault is going to sacrifice his Misty Rainforest, and we'll see what he's going to search for here.
So I'm really surprised. I mean, it's not too surprising. Owen won the tournament, of course, but how quickly Rug has fallen off the radar,
gone,
and been taken over by this new iteration of Delver decks.
You see a Ponder here from Guibault. It feels like it is rare, and we've done this for a little while now, not to cover multiple Rug Delver decks in a day of Legacy, let alone one. We haven't seen any yet so far. I didn't see the match at Chukover, but I'm assuming it wasn't a Rug match.
No.
Yeah, it was Owen playing blue or red. I don't know what he was playing against.
Esper Blade.
Okay, sure. No Rugs so far, and I don't know how much of it is in the room, if we're going to see in the elimination rounds, what have you, but almost none of that deck in this tournament.
Yeah, True Name Nemesis really shifts it around, and once you have True Name Nemesis in your deck, one of the best things to do is pair it with equipment, and that's the end of it.
And that's not something that that Rug lets you do.
And then, of course, once you have White in your deck, you get to play Source of Plowshares, which removes one of the major incentives to play Tarmogoyf, relatively speaking, since you just have plows, and so.
Yeah, and because people are playing White in the new Delver decks, that opens up access to more Tarmogoyfs, where in the Rug Mirrors, when you play Tarmogoyf and it's a 4/5, it's like no getting through it. But because there's so many swords running around, it makes Tarmogoyf much worse. You see a Careful Study here. Draw a Force in a Swamp. Don't know what he's going to discard just yet, but there is a Blazing Archon among the options here for Naskrent. There's an Inkwell as well. Now, Inkwell is actually the better of the two in this matchup. Not really going to surprise you because Shroud is so good against this deck, and Archon can be swords. So if he's able to get an Inkwell in play, it's going to be very difficult for Guibault to win.
Yeah, almost impossible unless he has a significant clock. And this deck was already kind of evolving into. We started to see blue, white, red shells start to crop up even before True Name Nemesis, because people were moving to Geist Ain't Trapped as one of the creatures of choice. But True Name Nemesis really solidified white as the third color you want.
Yeah. We do apologize for the technical problems that are taking place right now on our cameras. We were working on getting that fixed for you guys at home so you can have a better viewing experience. As you do see, Guibault is going to drop down a true name nemesis here. So he's finally got a clock started. You see his hand right now. He's got Forceful, he's got a Spell Pierce, a lot of copies of Source of Plowshares in his hand. So let's see what Naskrent's going to find here. He's got a Ponder that I'll take a look at.
And we're looking at basically just a Forcible to protect himself. So not unrealistic for John to be able to push through this turn, although based on the way that he's playing, I suspect that he's missing an actual way to reanimate an Inkwell Leviathan. So you see him shuffle off his Ponder here, looking for Exhume or a Reanimate. Josh kind of shields down here, and again, you know, he does have a True Name Nemesis, but that's not the fastest of clocks, and a lot of the cards in his hand aren't really that potent. The multiple plows obviously do very little of Inkwell Leviathan. Is reanimated. A couple soft counter spells that are quickly losing functionality. So Josh ahead, but his hold on the game is tenuous.
Yeah. Yep. So we're going to come back to the booth here really quickly for you guys as we want to get those technical problems worked out for you guys, especially because we were playing a match with top 8 implications. So as soon as we do get that fixed, we'll be cutting back over to the match. But one thing I know that you want to talk about today that we have not actually gotten around to doing, and now that one has just been resolved, is True Name Nemesis.
Yes.
And which direction do you want to go? Do you like this card? Do you hate this card?
So here's the thing. I wouldn't say that I like it, but I do believe that there's a lot of unpleasant stuff that happens in Legacy that people have sort of become accustomed to and processed that we no longer think about. I tweeted this a couple weeks ago. Imagine that True Name Nemesis was printed in Tempest and had existed for 15 years or whatever the case is.
Okay.
You had gotten used to as part of Legacy play. You incorporated, you know, you built your deck appropriately, and you played around it and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And Wasteland just got released for the first time in Commander products. And people are just learning to play against Wasteland for the first time and seeing the negative impact that Wasteland can have on games on occasion. People would be freaking out. You know the games where you just get your first 2 lands, Wasteland, you don't get to cast a spell?
Sure.
Or you haven't built your mana bases with basics to fetch for, so you're all dual lands, so your reaction is this is stupid, instead of incorporating answers or ways to construct your deck to
play more
ameliorate,
lands.
Right, play more lands or have basics to go get. So I'm not saying the impact of True Name Nemesis is positive, and certainly games can conclude in an unpleasant way when it's involved. But it's certainly not more negative than Wasteland in terms of net effect on gameplay.
Sure.
In my mind, it's not even really even that close. But people have become accustomed to playing with Wasteland, so it's an experience they're used to. And they've learned how to play around it, and they've built their decks with this in mind. And there's still a learning curve involved when you introduce something as dramatic and different as True Name Nemesis. Week 1, you saw people who were completely caught off guard by it and just basically conceding the game. At the Invitational, I ran into Engineer Plagues and Golgari Charms. People had adapted. And again, I'm not saying that the impact of this card is positive, but there is a learning curve associated when new dramatic cards get introduced to the format. And True Name Nemesis being very different from previously existing cards and being especially unsatisfying when you lose to it, I think is part of where the negative reaction comes from. But I don't think it's not even close to the worst gameplay stuff that's going on in Legacy. So
yeah, I think it's interesting to the example that you provide, where if Wasteland had been printed nowadays, I can imagine how normally things happen in Magic, where it's like, okay, you know, people will be like, well, you know, Wasteland, I don't think it's that good. You know, like with True Name Nemesis, that happens with a lot of new cards. You know, it's just like, it's okay, but I don't know. Maybe it's a little overrated. And then, you know, there'll be just a few people playing Wasteland, and then it's just like, oh, God, this is so unfun. Which is what happened with True Name, where people were like, I don't know how good it actually is. You know, it's just a creature, you can kill it. And now it's kind of everywhere. You see it attacking for 3 now.
Right. Imagine if Wasteland, Light from the Loam, won the first tournament where Wasteland got printed. People would be losing their minds about this. You know what I mean?
You see Misty Rainforest is going to get sacrificed here from Naskrent. And it looks like our technical difficulties are fixed for you guys now. So glad we were able to get that fixed for you. Give you a better viewing experience at home as we do watch Guibault and Naskrent. Again, play for top 8. No draw here. They thought about it. They even almost did it. And they decided, no, it's better for us to play.
And one of the advantages of Reanimator you may see in this game is, unlike Show and Tell and Sneak Attack, which are 3 and 4 mana, Reanimator can go off with 1 mana spells, specifically Reanimate. So those spell pierces don't have the type of shelf life that they do against a deck like Sneak and Show, for example, or like Ad Nauseum,
Mhm.
where all the mana matters. You can go off pretty cheap in terms of mana.
Here is a Thought Seize. So I'm going to show you double Spell Pierce, double Swords, Forcible, and Batter Skull. Interesting.
So pretty slow clock here from Josh. A lot of dead cards. Can't really commit that Batter Skull to the table because there's a risk that disaster strikes.
So if you're Naskrent, and I believe he has right now, he has a Forcible of his own. He's going to take Batter Skull. Wow.
Whoa. Bold.
Wow. Does not care about the counter magic at all. I was not expecting that.
It's possible that True Name Nemesis with Batter Skull on it simply races whatever John reanimates.
Sure, that's true. We'll see what's going to happen here. This is an Entomb. Will this get a Spell Pierce? He wants to take a look. In the graveyard right now, there's an Inkwell Leviathan, and there's a Blazing Archon. Other cards that he can reanimate are Elish Norn, and he has 4 copies of Gristlebrand. That's the suite that most people are playing nowadays, is 4 Gristlebrand, and then 3 other targets to Entomb. Blazing Archon is quite a good one, as it beats combo elves by itself once you get that in play, as does Elish Norn, but you don't live in a perfect world where you get to Entomb reanimate every game. And then Inkwell Leviathan is actually one of the best sets you can get against Death and Taxes. That's the card that they can't Swords to Plowshares and they can't Karakas it.
And it's faster than what they're doing.
Yes. 7-11 with Trample. Best of luck blocking it. So Gristlebrand's going to go in the bin for Naskrent. So he's going to take a draw, and he does have multiple Lotus Petals in his hand. He also has a Polluted Delta as well. And he just passes the turn back. So now, very quickly here, this attack is actually going to shut off Reanimate.
Yep. And John has also picked up another True Name Nemesis. Whether or not he's willing to commit that blue mana is one question, but he can speed up the clock quite a bit here.
I'd be mighty surprised if he would be willing to tap out and just make it so it's kind of forcible or bust. But he goes a reaching. Okay. So he thinks it's clear.
Well, it's not clear how much defense that Spell Pierce even provides at this point.
Sure.
John with, quite a bit of mana, and again, Reanimator can go off on the cheap, so.
And now if you're an Naskrent, you know that you only have to play around forces. Well, maybe 2, but you don't have to worry about those 2 copies of Spell Pierce, and the only mystery card over there is Lightning Bolt. So are we going to sacrifice this Polluted Delta? It looks like a little unsure of himself here is Naskrent. The answer is he's not sure.
Yes.
There is no answer yet.
It's one of those narrow, thinning out my deck versus the utility of having an additional shuffle. Although he goes and grabs Underground Sea. Is he out of basic land targets? Yes, he is. He has 2 swamps and an island.
Oh, Wasteland's going to clear that up. So the question now is, was it worth it to take that point of damage to do that?
Well, it doesn't change the clock, although it doesn't mean he can't alternate cast Forcible anymore. Or at least he's facing lethal next turn in the event that he does.
Here's a Brainstorm to start the show. Guibault says, that's fine. Reanimate, Reanimate. Mystery card, Ponder.
Was one of those an Exhume?
Yep, actually, okay, one of them was an Exhume, thank you. And he has a Forcible in his hand, so Exhume is actually the perfect card.
But now that, now that Fetch Lane Crack is coming back to haunt him here, as he can't block True Name Nemesis. He has nothing in his graveyard that he can reanimate to beat Swords of Plowshares. Besides Inkwell Leviathan, that doesn't provide any utility the following turn. And so I think John is just kind of stuck now.
Yeah, I think the Entomb target, as powerful as Gristlebrand is, the better card in the situation, even when there was only one True Nemesis, may have been Elish Norn.
Yeah, because it gives him a lot of time. That's the thing that John needed to prioritize.
That's the thing that he definitely lacks right now. He's under the gun. Got to put 2 cards back here from the Brainstorm. Forcible is going to be the one that actually goes on top. See, he's going to move Lotus Petals through to his hand. He's going to cast a Lotus Petal. He's going to cast a Ponder. So, immediately going to, I think he was going to immediately shuffle.
But there is the third card that he doesn't know about currently.
So, a judge is going to be asked exactly what to do. And I think what should happen here, because it definitely shouldn't be a shuffle and reponder. I think what it should be is, okay, 1, 2, we know these top 2 cards. Yeah, shuffle the deck. And then the third card is still just a mystery because he saw the bottom card. Yeah. Because those top 2 cards, nothing changed.
Right.
And those top 2 cards should be a part of the ponder.
So not sure what John is really looking for at this point, as he's aware of the contents of Josh's hand. I believe the writing is somewhat on the wall here, but
I think he might be looking for Entomb. So 1, 2, 3. And reanimate Force Will and a polluted Delta is obviously not it. So time to shuffle away. And if he's able to spike an Entomb, because I think he has another Lotus Petal in his hand, he's able to go Entomb, get Elesh Norn, Exhume, Force of Will to counter your Force of Will to kill your 2 Tuning Nemesis. Now, of course, Elesh Norn will die to Swords of Plowshares, but at least he's not dead. So, mystery card. It is Entomb.
okay.
Going to cast Entomb.
Not too shabby.
Not so bad at all.
And this plow is also going to, gain them some life as well.
Which will turn on reanimates.
Yeah.
So now there's Elesh Norn, Grand Cenobite.
Not too shabby.
We call this getting there.
Yeah. We may have made it, as you mentioned, a little unnecessarily challenging for ourselves, but we're here now. We're ready to go.
And there's your pedal. He's got a Daze in his hand too, so actually Daze will take care of the Force Will, which is really nice. Here's Entomb. Yep, there's your Daze. There's your Force Will. There's.
All right, here we go.
So I don't like forcing it. I like. Oh, never mind. He has man open. You can barely see it underneath the underneath the wasteland that's untapped. You can barely see it underneath the other lands there on the camera. So I do like force willing it.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a fan of that play as well.
Yes, I think
we're on
that's
the same
very
page.
smart.
Yeah.
I would force will the force will to get your Elesh Norn into play. So there go the true names. And Naskrent is out of cards, and he knows that his Elesh Norn is going to die because there's swords over there.
But, the life's really helpful, and he's got some draw steps now.
Yeah, of course. And Swords of Plowshares is power, correct? It's not toughness.
Correct, it's power.
Okay. So let's see how Guibault wants to start this turn. It's going to start with a Ponder.
Pretty easy shuffle there. He needs to find a threat card to go along with plowing this turn. As the rest of his hand is not excellent, and John has a lot of dangerous draws.
So let's see what Guibault finds with the Ponder shuffle. 2. Draw a card. Definitely got a sword just now, while there's no cards in the hand or anything of that nature. So bye-bye Elesh Norn. Gain some life up to 10. You see Guibault's hand right now. He's got a Daze, a Spell Pierce, a Bolt, and a Swords. Still no red mana, oddly enough. Rarely do you see that. Is Naskrent just going to pass the turn back?
He hasn't drawn a lot in the way of fetches. So Josh still waiting for a threat card. So we're going to play draw go here and see who hits first. And looks like John has. Here comes an Exhume. I assume we're going to be fighting over this.
Yeah, it's just Pierce plus Daze territory. Pay. Daze it. Yep, he's got a Gristlebrand in his hand, so that's not going to cut it. And Wasteland can actually take care of the Underground Sea if Guibault wants to, which he doesn't look like he wants to right now.
Might as well untap first and
get the information.
The end of your turn, Wasteland is a fairly common operations mistake in Legacy. So.
All right, so Naskrent with Gristlebrand in hand. There's a careful study. Yeah, might as well. I already got one card to discard.
Ooh.
Show and Tell and Lotus Petal with the cards drawn. Yikes. And he only has 2 Gristlebrand's left in his deck, so Show and Tell's not even good now.
Yeah, he's run out. He's kind of out of creatures, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, 4 Gristlebrand, 1 Blazing Archon, 1 Elesh Norn, 1 Inkwell. Blazing Archon, Inkwell, 1 Gristlebrand in the graveyard. Elesh Norn removed from Swords, so that means 2 Gristlebrands left. And he discarded Gristlebrand, so he's left with Show and Tell. So here's a Pond. Yep, draw Force of Will. Pass the turn back. Draw step for Naskrent. Passes the turn back. Guibault's going to sacrifice that Misty Rainforest. Going to go down to 17. I think it's time to finally find a Volcanic here. There we go.
So finally, the third color rears its head.
Yeah. Interesting game here. It took Naskrent a lot to get back in this game to just not die. And now he's trying to come back and rebuild something here, but it's sure looking tough. Guibault's going to take a draw here. It's a Wasteland. I think that's the fourth one.
So still nowhere to go, but pretty good at defending himself.
He's got a really nice wall up, right? I mean, Daze is not great, but it's not bad. You see a careful study. He's going to catch him an Naskrent. Force of Will, of course, going to be really good. A Bolt and then a Swords. Naskrent drew a Daze and a land, so nothing really of relevance there off the careful study, but he is through these. He's still hanging on to that show and tell, so passing the turn back.
Another Bolt slides off.
Yep. There's a waste past the turn back, so Naskrent will draw. Reanimate. That's real risky to cast.
Yeah, especially, you know, very realistic that Josh has lightning bolts in his hand. The game's gone on for quite a few turns. You can see by the way Josh has split his hand apart. John may have just asked how many cards were in his hand.
I don't think we've ever seen a reanimate resolve faster here.
Well, I would bolt in response, but yes.
Yeah, sure. Sure. I wonder what he's targeting with this.
I mean, it's something that costs at least 7 mana, right?
Well, no, so here's the thing. With Reanimate, you can target the opponent's stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah, he could have got back an opposing True Name.
Yeah, so he could have gotten back a True Name and just tried to give him the business with that. Here's a Bolt, and the casting cost of Inkwell is a whole bunch, and so that's going to do it. And it makes me wonder if John knows that he can target his opponent's stuff in his graveyard. That was a trick that really came up a lot in the Reanimator mirror.
Yeah.
Is that they, entomb and do what they do, and then you go, all right, reanimate your thing. Let's fight over my 1-mana spell. And you could actually steal wins that way. And had he reanimated a True Nemesis, he would have went down to 7, which is not double bolt range. Now, of course, he wouldn't want to take any more damage, but worth a shot maybe. Either way, Josh Guibault is going to win this game. And we'll be moving on to a second game here between Blue-White Red Delver and Reanimator.
Reanimating the True Name Nemesis and that going all the way would have been a nice conclusion to that game.
Given what we've seen today, that would be nothing. It would be an awesome way to win, but wow. We've had some insane matches today. Not only just our Legacy Tournament, but our Standard Open, too. The finals of Turnwall and Shroud was awesome.
Pretty crazy, yeah.
So we'll take a look at Naskrent's sideboard here first. He's got 2 copies of Spell Pierce, 2 more Show and Tells in his board to go along with the 2 in his main deck. 2 City of Traders, an Ashen Rider, a Flusterstorm, a Echoing Truth, a Chain of Vapor, 2 Python Needle, 2 Thoughtseize, and a Coffin Purge. So a lot of 2-ofs and 1-ofs here. Nothing that really stands out to be great in this particular matchup. You could make an argument for boarding in a lot of these cards. You want to board in Spell Pierces to be able to push your cards through. Show and Tells and City of Traders are kind of a package so that you can play it really early. But of course, when you do bring Show and Tell against a deck like this, it may not be the best. Ashen Rider is a card that can't come in and kill a permanent, but it can be killed via Swords to Plowshares. So, normally that's better against decks that have Karakas. Flusterstorm can be used to win those counter wars if you anticipate that's where things are going to go. Echoing Truth and Chain of Vapor are fantastic cards against Rest in Peace, so maybe you want to bring those in. Needle, one of the few cards I don't think you're going to want to bring in this matchup. Thoughtseize to be able to push your combo through, and then Singleton Coffin Purge is more so for the mirror than anything else.
And if John's familiar with this list, I would imagine that he's going to be going and getting the Show and Tells here. He knows there's not really anything threatening for Josh to put into play. There's no Karakas, nothing like that. And it gives him a way to work around Rest in Peace, which is a very commonly sideboarded card in these Blue-White-Red Delver lists. That leads us over to Josh's sideboard, where there's, again, the 2 copies of Rest in Peace. He has 2 Pyroblasts, 4 copies of Meddling Mage, a Grafdigger's Cage, and a black-green sword, which he may... I guess Sword of Fire and Ice, which he has in his main deck, is probably likely the better candidate to keep in this deck. But in any case, he has quite a bit of anti-combo action to bring in, anti-blue action, and anti-graveyard action. So a lot going on.
Julian Nab, the winner of the BO and the Bazaar of Moxon with Combo Elves, he wrote a really nice article series for us over at Star City Games about a month or two ago. He mentioned here how you said that Guibault should have bolted in response to the reanimate. One of the reasons Julian brings up here on Twitter is he could have dazed his own reanimate and elected not to pay. His opponent made a mistake by not bolting in response.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Bazaar of Moxon champion for a reason.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
That is a subtle line.
Yes.
I had not considered.
Yeah, I had not considered that either. He also said that I made a comment of Blazing Archon being the end boss against Combo Elves. He said you should watch my stream more. 10 Deathray Shaman activations in a single turn is not hard for me to do. Okay, buddy.
All right.
Let's pump the brakes a little bit here, huh?
We get it.
Well, we're going to move on to a second game here between Naskrent and Guibault. And if you guys are joining us just like Julian, you can tweet at us at SCG Live, hashtag SCGINDY for your tweets. We are, of course, in round 9 of 9 here in our Legacy Open. We do have some players that have been drawing into the top 8. And these two players are going to have to play to make their way in.
Oh, he also
here.
shot me a text.
Oh, what she got?
The reason I don't like your comparison is that Wasteland is highly interactive. TNN is the exact opposite. Only if we consider any card that targets an opposing player or permanent to be interactive. In the broadest, loosest sense of the word, yes, it's interactive. In the way that Vindicate, Stone Rain, Hypnotorac, or Armageddon, or a number of other cards that sole function index is to prevent your opponent from being able to cast spells. But it's not. It's only interactive in the absolute broadest, loosest definition of the word.
Sure. I don't disagree with you on that.
It's interactive. My opponent might have a spell they want to cast, and when I strip mine them, they can no longer cast it. That's pretty interactive because they had a card in play, and now they don't.
Yeah.
That's a very loose definition.
See, we do check our tweets.
We do.
We don't lie. At SCG Live, hashtag SCGINDY for your tweets. As we do watch these players finishing shuffling up, and we're going to see exactly who's going to win here. Again, Guibault up a game with his blue-white-red Delver deck.
Actually, flyers matter against True Nemesis in theory. -1/-1 effects.
Look, both cards.
It ignores a large swath of cards.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's the most interactive card, but it's tough to argue that Wasteland is some hallmark of interactivity.
Yeah. Again, Naskrent will be on the play in this game, and I'm going to be interested to see exactly how he sideboards if he does bring the show and tell package, as you mentioned, because I kind of do agree with you there that, especially when you're playing it, if you're familiar with Blue Red Delver, they do have access to Rest in Peace, so it's pretty important that you probably port out some number of your actual reanimation cards, like Reanimate, Animate, Dead, and Exhume, because you can just get those colded, and then that becomes a huge issue. A lot of dead draws in a matchup where it feels like you already have a healthy amount of dead draws, honestly.
Right. But Josh getting the first game here, I think, is really bad for John, as he has Josh's sideboard is so well suited for this matchup.
Yeah, I think it's super bad for John.
And almost incidentally, too, only Rest in Peace is a card you could argue is devoted for graveyard matchups. And I'm sure Reanimator is fairly low on the list of decks that Josh was looking to target with this.
Yeah, I know, just again, from my experience playing in DC, my thought process was like, if I'm playing against a deck like this that's pretty hateful, I would aggressively mulligan and try to do something just bonkers early, and maybe hope they don't Force Will, or hope I have a Days Further Force Will, something like that, and just really try to just push them over. Because, again, the longer the game goes, it's probably the worse it is for you, because it gives them the opportunity to find Rest in Peace, as Naskrent's going to discard an Entomb here on turn.
He's not willing to break that fetch land, as he needs both blue and black mana, and the threat of the spell getting countered and him getting wastelanded here if he goes and gets Underground Sea is just too high. Ideally, you can find a second fetch or one of his basics, like you just did, and now the Polluted Delta allows him to find a swamp, and life can go on.
Yep. So, Naskrent will pass the turn back. So let's see what Guibault finds. Plays Misty Rainforest, pass the turn back. No action here for Josh right now. Take a draw. Discard a Gristlebrand.
John being quite patient here, not willing to expose himself to any of the soft counters.
Yeah. He does have a Ponder and a Brainstorm in his hand that he's electing not to cast. See Guibault saying he's got a couple lands, got a Wasteland over there, Swords, a couple Spell Pierces. Pretty good draw here for Josh. He just needs a clock, needs to find a Delver or a True Name. Maybe even like a card like Meddling Mage, maybe, but looks like a Stoneforge Mystic. Yep.
All right, here comes the clock.
Yep. Online now. So if he wants to get Batter Skull, admit maybe one of the swords. It's going to be Sword of Feast and Famine. A combo that basically won a Pro Tour by itself. Pro Tour pairs, yeah.
Dominated Standard for the better part of a year and change. Batter Skull was in the mix by the end of things, but
it was fun looking back at that Pro Tour, seeing the blue-white control list that people were playing, the players who didn't know about how good Stoneforge was, searching that up, and very clear the players that did, Ben Stark among them.
Oh yeah, it's crazy how many Pro Tours you can go back and look at, and the decks that could have been played.
Yeah, I think about that a lot actually.
The Chicago 2000 or 2001, the one that Kai won with Counter Rebels, you could have played Nether Hops in that tournament, not lost a game.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That the full Nether Hops deck was illegal for that event. Just no one had found it yet.
I think about the Pro Tour that Antoine Morel won with Psychotog. I think that like the ridiculous dredge deck was actually available because because Billy Moreno obviously got second, but I think you could have played like Icarid Dredge at that tournament and just completely ruined
not
people.
Lost a game.
Yeah, no way you lose a game at that tournament if you're playing that deck. And here's a Reanimate targeting Gristlebrand.
So John's willing to test the waters a little bit now that he can play at least Spell Pierce. So if Josh wants to fight back, it requires multiple pieces of disruption.
Well, there's a Spell Pierce. And that is going to get countered. Now that,
Okay, or not.
That is strange.
Unless he's ready to go off this turn, basically.
And now he's going to Brainstorm.
And Josh down to a Pyroblast and a Spell Pierce's protection.
Kind of feel like this is worth blasting.
Yeah, hard to imagine, especially with a fetch line in play, a blue spell that John's going to be playing that's more powerful than this. Especially since John does have a reanimation target in his graveyard, so it's not like we're trying to save it for careful study.
Yeah. Really surprised not to see him pay for the Spell Pierce there. Maybe he's afraid of Stifle? Not sure. So Guibault is going to draw. Draws a Wasteland for the turn. Not going to have much of an effect there. Here is... Looks like he's going to play Flooded Strand. Yeah. Drawing a lot of lands this game, has Josh. There's a sword. See if this resolves. Might be time to have a little battle over this. And it's really funny. Josh's hand not very good.
No, he doesn't. He's flooded out pretty badly here.
Not really doing anything of consequence here.
And given how light Josh is on action, if John had paid for that Spell Pierce, probably forces Josh to use another Spell Pierce to fight over it, and then Josh's defenses are entirely down.
Yeah. So let's see if Naskrent wants to look. It feels like he has the counterspell kind of hanging out here. You see a Spell Pierce in his hand. Spell Pierce not the most effective right now, but might not be as bad as we think either.
Well, given how little the reanimation deck actually needs to do its thing. I mean, at this point, he just needs a reanimation spell or possibly a show and tell, what have you. It's really hard for me to imagine that John doesn't have access cards to discard. So he's not playing a deck like Ad Nauseam where it's about a saturation of spells. He's playing a 1-2 combo, and so fighting over something that's going to be attacking his hand size doesn't seem like something he necessarily has to do.
Yeah. Alrighty, well. Sword is in. Now it's going to try to equip. Equip is good. Attack here for 3. And it will connect. So Guibault's going to get to untap all those lands, and Naskrent's going to have to discard a card, which Reanimator doesn't mind doing. Careful Study going to go away.
A lot of good targets for self-discard.
Yeah. Alright, so Naskrent. Let's see what he wants to do on this turn. Take a draw.
And the spell Reanimate would stick right now.
Yeah, it would be good to go. He would have to take a lot of damage to cast it, but it would be good to go. And that's Reanimate. You said it.
All right, so it's targeting Gristlebrand.
Yep. And I don't. So like this is like a really weird spot, right? Where, yeah, if you're Guibault, like, so Spell Pierce countered something last time, so is Spell Pierce going to counter it this time? Okay. Sacrifice the Polluted Delta.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not just willing to. I guess he's worried about whatever potential follow-up John could have by drawing off of Gristlebrand, and this constricts his mana. But it feels like there might have been a better spot somewhere down the line for that Spell Pierce to be used.
Well, I just think it's like interesting, right? Where the previous turn he Spell Pierce something where Naskrent had 2 mana available, and Naskrent just let the Spell Pierce resolve, and now this time it's like, well, I guess I'll Spell Pierce. Will this work? Because it worked last time. The answer is a resounding no. So Gristlebrand's going to come into play. Naskrent's going to end up taking 8. He's going to go down to 7 now.
Oh, maybe that's the reason. I think that might have been the reason why. If he gets John to break his fetch land there, he can't draw 7 with Gristlebrand this turn.
Gotcha.
That's probably the reason to make him Pierce there.
You have put the pieces together.
Yes.
A wise man. Now Sword's just going to kill that. And he's going to go down to 6. Pretty smart play.
Yeah. Because he doesn't have Bolt to finish him off or anything like that. So.
And now, by Naskrent going down to 6 and Mystic having protection from black, it can get it for 3, and if he draws Bolt, it's over. And pretty nice for Guibault as well that he has Red Blast in his hand to counter a counter spell. So it's a pretty good spot here for Josh. Let's see what this is going to be on a Naskrent side. Yeah, okay, Brainstorm. 1, 2, and 3 cards coming. And I don't think you fight over the Brainstorm. I think you fight over the Force of Will.
Right.
If he somehow hits Force of Will, blue card, has another blue card, maybe just kind of unlucky. All right, so there goes that. Naskrent's going to go up to 13. And now Guibault gets to untap, so he gets himself out of that situation.
Yep. But he's still, pretty exposed. Again, he doesn't have a lot to protect himself with. He's just down to Pyroblast and his clock.
Yeah, he got plenty of lands. You
Yeah.
see an attack here from Guibault. Now, this is a little bit dangerous, too, because the only creature in the graveyard was Gristlebrand. And, okay, Spell Pierce is the card that's going to get discarded. So, Naskrent doesn't actually have a card to reanimate right now. So, the sword hit could have actually helped that out.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he put it in lieu of Batterskull, but
Aha, that'll help it out. There's an Entomb.
the sort of Fire and Ice would certainly be a more positive contributor at this point than
Yes,
Feast of
almost
Famine.
certainly. Gristlebrand going to go in the bin. And Exhume is a whole lot better than Reanimate right now. And I believe that's what Naskrent does have in his hand. Is he going to cast it down in the face of Daze? The answer is yes, he will.
it's not getting any better, so.
No, it is certainly not. So, give me Gristlebrand. That's what's going to happen. So, the second time that the 7/7 flyer is in play.
Again, he can't activate this turn because the Stoneforge Mystic now has protection from black, so it actually could attack for 3 and kill. So, oh, we just drew another sword.
Sword of, is that Sword of War and Peace?
Fire Ice.
Fire Ice. Okay, so that's
4,
1,
5,
2.
6.
That's a lot, right?
I don't think it's lethal.
I don't think it's lethal either. 2, 4, 5, 6,
6,
7.
7. Right.
But he gets to draw a card.
Yes.
If he draws a bolt.
Yep.
Hiya! Back for a
Right.
whole bunch.
So presumably, Josh has cut the Batterskull, which is totally reasonable.
yeah, yeah. So a whole bunch of triggers.
Discard, untap, draw a card. He'd also draw Swords of Plowshares here, which would be really good.
Yep.
Gristlebrand's going to get an attack.
I mean, Gristlebrand's attack right now is this thing where it's like kind of just keeping
Keeping pace.
keeping pace, keeping Naskrent alive.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible Josh can't even, John rather, sorry, can't even draw cards here and try to find something to answer. He might just have to race and hope to fade a lot of draws from Josh.
So Gristlebrand's going to come in. It's going to put Guibault down to 11. He's going to go up to 10. And now here is a Ponder. I would counter this so fast.
Yeah, and it's time to cash in this Red Blast.
Yeah. There's no way it's getting any better. Yep. And I like this a lot. Yeah, you
Yep.
definitely red blast this because you have to. I think, of course, we can see the cards, but you have to sense weakness there.
He hasn't been doing anything else. He hasn't fought you over anything. He didn't kill you with Bolt when he could have killed you with Bolt.
Yep.
There's nothing that could be really left in that hand except lands.
Guibault draws, Brainstorm, huge, great start.
That's a big one.
I think he can start by casting that, especially because he's a fetch land in play already. So 1, 2, and 3.
Well,
Three
this is
more
why we have
lands.
fetch lands, right?
This is true.
This is why we have fetch lands.
And you're going to want to keep fetch lands, obviously, for future Brainstorms.
Yeah.
All right, so sacrifice this. Means he can clear and find a new card.
Yeah, and he's got,
with the sword.
again, a lot of good draws here. Even something as anemic looking as True Name Nemesis would give him 10 points of power in play the following.
Yeah, that's good enough.
So,
or Delver and it flips.
Yep.
You know, something like that.
but he is on a 2-turn clock here, so he doesn't have a lot of draws left.
This is true.
But he has a lot of cards that win him the game from here.
So Stoneforge Mystic and the equipment that it searches for versus a Gristlebrand.
Yeah. Very similar, you know, both card drawing engines, both deal a lot of damage.
Take a draw.
Stelver.
Okay. Got to play it, of course. So that's in play. There's a Flooded Strand. There's a fetch land. Pass turn back.
I think we're going to get a good sweat next turn.
That's a good sweat,
I
yeah.
think we're going to get a good one.
Naskrent draws.
Legacy Open players, that is time. The last round of Swiss, that is time.
Well, this guy's coming in.
Yeah. We ain't blocking.
Yeah, there are no good blocks we had, obviously, because of the sword. So, all right. And for 7, put you to 4, put myself up to 10.
All right, well.
Oh, excuse me, 3.
John's got a lot of bullets to dodge here, that's for sure.
Yeah. Interesting.
I mean, is he contemplating perhaps drawing 7 and trying to
get there. There's a Lotus Petal. He knows he's going to discard that card. I mean, he could try to peel 7. I don't know if it's good.
No, I like this. Just, you got to hope, man.
All right.
That ain't
it.
But he's drawing it.
It's a rest in peace. Yeah, he could have sacked.
Oh, he needed to fetch there.
Yeah, he could have sacked. He could have sacked the fetch land with the Delver trigger on the stack.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that rest in peace doesn't do anything right now.
Yep. The problem's in play. It ain't in the bin.
Yeah.
All right. Attacks.
All right. Well, we still got
It's got to fade again.
one more draw.
Yeah. All right. Draw from Daze. That ain't it. Yeah, had he sacked with after resolving the Delver trigger,
He has a one more look. Yep. Although he's drawing pretty slim, he's basically drawing to just Bolt at that point.
Yeah. John's face is great. I don't know.
John looks like a man who knew he just stole something.
Yeah, I don't know how I just won that game. I don't have the slightest clue.
Josh had to miss. I mean, he had to flood out and miss. I don't even know how many draws.
Wow. That's insane. That game was insane.
John looks suitably bemused
He was mystified that he won that game. I would be too, to be fair. Yeah, he's shaking his head. I don't know.
Yep.
But I got it done.
He basically got to stack Josh's deck for about 6 turns.
Yeah,
There's
that's
how that one had to play out.
That's how it felt, honestly.
He would have lost to a Daze, a Piers, any additional creature, a Bolt.
There's a bevy of cards.
Yeah.
An absolute bevy of cards that he was just dead to. Wow. Me oh my.
Yeah.
Either way.
Game 3.
Still alive and kicking. Yeah, game 3. This bad boy ain't over yet.
Yeah.
Those are the best games where you just look back and you're just like, I don't
know how that even could have gone down that way.
I don't even have the slightest idea how I won this game. But I'm going to take it, and let's keep right on rolling. That's all you can do. That's all you can do. Again, if you guys are just joining us, Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan here in the booth, round 9 of 9 here in Star City Games Open Series in Indianapolis, Indiana. At SCG Live, #SCGINDY for your tweets. Hopefully there's not a lot of snow where you are.
So I just got a tweet asking me what Nether Hops was.
Oh, yes,
dating
I
myself.
love it.
So it was a deck that played all the 2-mana lands from both Fallen Empires, which were reprinted in the core set, and Invasion. That comes into play tap for 1 and sack for 2.
One of those is like a Tinder Farm.
Tinder Farm is one of
Irrigation
them.
Ditch.
Irrigation Ditch. Dwarven Stronghold, perhaps, is one of the
One
Fallen
of the old
Empires.
ones, yeah.
Right.
Havenwood Battleground. Yeah, those lands.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, you play all these 2-mana lands. You play 4 Jokel Hops for Obliterate, some Nether Spirits, some Vampiric Tutors to tie it all together.
Okay.
And some Urza's Rages, and you can't lose a game. That's how that works.
And that's just all the deck did, right? Now, Joke Ops you could counter, but Obliterate you obviously couldn't
Correct.
counter. But you obliterated on turn 5?
Yeah, you could.
Okay. I don't know if there's any way to accelerate like a land into play.
No. So, any beatdown deck just like basically ran out of lands as it got Jokel Hops over and over again, and called it by Nether Spirit.
Okay.
And any control deck just got obliterated over and over again, and eventually again ran out of lands. You could kill with another Spirit. There's only 2 cards in the format that had any hope of interacting with it.
Okay.
It was Parallax Wave and Armageddon. Those were the only cards that gave you any sort of shot.
First picks in cube for me.
Yep.
Perfect.
But that deck could have been played at Pro Tour Chicago. You would have not lost a game. It eventually debuted later in the regionals season that year. So I believe the Pro Tour was in the fall, so we're talking the spring, roughly 6 months later.
Okay.
And it was absolutely dominant in regionals and nationals where it was legal.
I can only imagine the first time that someone plays against this deck and they have no idea what's going on.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Like, so kill your stuff. So Vampiric Tutor, kill your stuff.
I played in regionals that year with Noble Panther, and people were casting Jokel Hops.
How was that? Was that fun for you? So kill your stuff.
Yeah.
You're gonna see a fetch land here.
Both players on a mulligan to 6.
Yeah. So Naskrent's gonna search for. I believe that's a Misty Rainforest that he's using.
Because when you put Armadillo Cloak on a Noble Panther, that's pretty sweet. It's 5 power first striker.
With trample and lifelink.
Good luck.
That's pretty good against Nether Spirit.
Pretty good.
I will tell you that much.
Yeah. Not really good against Jokel Hops.
Yeah.
Because it dies along with your lands and every other permanent you control.
I would love to play a deck like that.
It was a riot.
Second Misty Rainforest here from Guibault, going to pass the turn back. So again, no Delver Secrets. He's just been slow out of the gates all 3 games.
Yeah, it's been a lot of setting up the shields and then eventually deploying threats.
Naskrent just passed the turn back. Feels like Naskrent's kind of playing his round Stifle in this matchup.
Yep, he has definitely played certain turns respecting the possibility, but we've played 2 fairly long games. At this point, Josh hasn't shown it. It's really only functional against the fetch lands, and so probably safe to start ignoring it.
Yeah. So let's take a look, Skipoo.
But John has shown a lot of patience, which has been really nice to watch.
That's been the big thing for this match. He has been extremely patient. Guibault's going to sacrifice this Misty Rainforest here.
Definitely conscious of trying to, if Josh is not going to pressure me, I'm not going to run into Dazes and Pierces.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait, build up my mana, and try to make him use multiple spells to fight each individual spell I'm casting.
Alrighty, so untap. Let's take a draw step here, Josh. He does have a Delver of Secrets now. So now he's got a clock. That's step 1. He's got maybe a Rest in Peace. He's got a Stoneforge Mystic. So he wants to get this established.
Stoneforge Mystic a little on the slow side here.
Yeah. And I think after that last game, where you mentioned I'd rather search for Sword of Fire and Ice as opposed to as opposed to Feast and Famine. That's exactly what he does.
Yeah, Josh drawing cards is so much better for him than making John discard cards for obvious reasons, and the additional pressure is valuable as well.
Yeah. And close out a game, be able to draw more counter spells. That's super important here for Guibault, and he is the shields are officially down.
All right.
Now Naskrent didn't play a land. That doesn't mean he doesn't have mana sources, because it's a deck that does have Lotus Petal. And looks like he's going to cast a Brainstorm here. So we could see a little Petal in the middle. Actually, there's an Entomb, there's an Inkwell, and there's Lotus Petal. Yeah, he can go bonkers.
Does he have a ability to reanimate?
Yeah, I think he has an Exhume in his hand, and he can go Entomb Exhume because of the 2 petals. So he's gonna put 2 cards back here. He can go nuts.
He's making that face again.
I've seen that face. I've seen that. And he has days. He has days in his hand for
Oh,
Force
yeah.
of Will. They call it the nuts.
Yeah.
I believe.
Well, he hasn't been playing land, so it gotta be spells, you know.
Yeah. He's got swamp too.
Oh, he's got it all.
All right. Start with Entomb. A good card. I'd cast that one.
Testing the waters.
Yeah. I should see what he wants to search for. I think he just wants to go Gristlebrand, yeah, because it's just the ultimate.
Yeah. Because it's quite powerful once it's in play.
Yeah, and one of the better cards you can put into play in the format.
Yeah.
You know, there can be an argument to be made for like Inkwell Leviathan. Even though he has it in his hand, he could have set it with Brainstorm, stuff like that. Go get a Elishnorn and kill your stuff. You know, things like that. But I think it's Gristlebrand.
Yeah, I mean, he might, you know, now that you know about the sword, it's possible Josh could even race an equal Leviathan from here. So
I'm going to cast Exhume.
how do we feel about that, Josh?
Especially with the days on backup. Gristlebrand is in play.
I'm sure if we could pan the camera up to John right now, we would see a jutting lower lip
Yeah.
and an incredulous wrinkling of the eyebrows.
There's a daze. Eh? It's a bit of a smile there. There's a Gristlebrand in play that he can activate. So Delver's going to flip. And there's the daze that's going to go to Guibault's grip. You're a little late.
That turn really needed to be Swords to Plowshares.
Yep. And Guibault, he is going to cast a Ponder. So 1, 2, and 3.
Found a plow. But again, this may be too little too late as John is going to be able to draw quite a few cards this turn.
Yeah, it's time to fight over Plow. Now, kind of interesting, though, because the daze can, like, counter a Force of Will. And I don't know if Naskrent has a Lotus Petal in his hand that he chose not to deploy. So there's that aspect of it, too. A lot of things going on here. Yep, there's a Plow. There's a Force of Will. Moving Inkwell.
Now we know about days here.
There's the daze. All right.
In response, I'll Wheel of Fortune, I guess. Start the turn that way.
Find me a Force of Will, Mr. Naskrent says. Whiff. Well, you can try it again if you'd like.
Getting into pretty dangerous territory here.
Tap.
All right, I like it.
One more time. All right, 7 new ones. Can you find a second Force of Will? No.
Does not look like it.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I drew 14. Shrug. That's good. All right, goes up to 11. These games have just been the swingiest.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when I just don't expect things to resolve or something like that. It's like, yeah, that's fine.
This is some of Legacy at its finest.
Yeah,
right
it really, really is. Attack from the Insectile Aberration is going to put Naskrent down to 8. Now, let's not ignore the fact that Naskrent has a metric ton of cards in his hand right now.
Yep. But John is facing lethal next turn as the Stoneforge Mystic can put the sword into play. The sword is an extra 4 points. The Stoneforge and the creature are 4 points, and that's 8. That's 4 plus 4 is 8. So John's got to redevelop this turn.
Naskrent does have, again, 1 million cards, so he can probably do something effective. Entomb, Exhume again, or Entomb, Reanimate is super risky. Now, Gristlebrand does cost 8, so if he were to do that, he would die.
He has to do this through a Pierce also. Keep that in mind.
Double Daze might be able to work his way through that. We'll see. There's a Ponder.
Josh, you got to be pretty happy that he's using some of his mana this way.
There's an Exhume. That might be the most important card. Not sure.
I mean, those are 3 good ones right there. There's an Elishnorn. If you can find somebody who can in his graveyard and reanimate it, it would be really good here. The Force of Will could be important. The Exhume might be the missing piece.
Yep. Careful Study can make it so that he draws all of them.
Yep.
Keep with Ponder, cast Careful Study, draw those, discard. You have 1 million cards in your hand, doesn't matter. Decisions from Mr. Naskrent.
So he's got to get something going this turn. Even getting a defensive Gristlebrand. We're also on turn 0 of extra turns. Even just getting a defensive Gristlebrand in play could be
not bad at all.
But he's got to get something going.
Yeah. Even consulting his hand and his graveyard. So it feels like he wants to keep with this Ponder. Elish Top Force Exhume is the card he's going to draw.
Well, it's a reanimation spell, a good target, and protection. So if he doesn't need one of those three, I don't know what he's looking for.
And he hasn't played a land yet, so there's his land for the turn. So now, as you see, Guibault's going to take a look at the graveyard. It's Entomb time. Now, as you mentioned, he's got to work his way through Pierce. And do you save Pierce for this or the reanimation spell? Entomb, yep, take that. Elish Norn. Maybe not. Maybe Gristlebrand.
Pretty big fan of getting Elish Norn here.
I like getting Elish Norn, getting these creatures off the board. Looks like he might be second-guessing himself a little bit because it looked like he wanted to get Elish Norn immediately. Looked like it was all part of the plan that he was crafting. But when you get to take a look at your deck, maybe you come to another decision, but Elish Norn is going to go in the graveyard.
All right.
And so now it's time to fire off Exhume, I believe. And if he has double days, he's good to go.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that he does.
No, it looks like he's got a lot of cantrips in his hand.
Yep, there's Exhume. And Guibault has a Spell Pierce. And that's going to counter that. Wow. All right.
I mean, this does prevent lethal this turn as he's shorting out the Stoneforge Mystic.
It's not over yet.
Yep.
It's not over yet. Time for Naskrent to discard.
This one is tight.
Yes, it really, every point mattering right now. Every single one. Crazy.
Yep. And John has figured out the 7 he's happy to keep, and
move on to turn 1 of extra turns, as Guibault's going to take a look at the graveyard here. Couple Gristlebrand's put in the old bin. Want to make sure that the cards that are removed from swords are exiled, which they are right now, I believe. So I think our graveyard is all good to go. All right, Guibault's going to untap. Again, turn 1 of extra turns. He'll take a draw. Oh.
it's a good one.
I forgot that was there. That was from a brainstorm that feels like it was eons ago. I would cast that. It would make it real hard to win.
We're going to try to make this resolve.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
Josh looks up knowing that if he could have fought over this, he would have fought over some stuff last
Yep.
turn.
And so now you're going to see an attack here for... I think you just attack with both because it's 2-turn clock.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wants to check to make sure he knows what he's got over there. Yeah, I think. Okay, so attacking with one or both. You put the sword in, so it's still going to be a 2-turner.
It makes both attackers lethal next turn.
Yes.
Which would not be the case if he sent both, if one were to die.
Lotus Petal to draw here for Naskrent.
So now we're on show and tell now as his way to...
Yeah, and just discarded 3 Gristlebrand's.
Yeah.
So, let's start by brainstorming. Maybe we can run perfect. 2. There is a Flusterstorm, Reanimate, and a land. And I don't think there is any running perfect to be done here for Naskrent.
After all this struggling, he might have finally have hit the end of the road here.
Gonna put 2 back. A couple copies of Reanimate, which obviously aren't going to do anything. There's a Petal. This is a land. This is a Ponder. So, 1, 2. Let's see what the third card is. Third card's a Careful Study. Don't think he has any interest in that. I think it's just shuffles. Better. Random cards better than that.
Yep. All Careful Study does is allows him to look at the 2 reanimates he already set back.
Yeah, put him in the bin. Mystery card coming. See what it is. Lotus Petal. One more cantrip. There's a Brainstorm. There's a Petal.
I'm not sure how Josh is supposed to get out of this if he doesn't have if he didn't leave show and tell in his deck.
I don't think Naskrent can get out of this. He just passes the turn. You're going to see end of turn. Going to put the Sword of Fire and Ice in play. We're going to see an equip of the equipment, most likely, and I think that might be it here in this game, as these players have battled on for top 8. I think they almost drew too.
Yep.
Equip the sword to the Stoneforge, as we're in turn number 3 of extra turns. And make a lethal attack. Do you have an Echoing Truth or anything of the sort? He does have an Echoing Truth.
Wow. Okay.
Can you imagine this game ends up in a draw?
So he has to Echoing Truth the sword itself,
Yeah, that's
right?
correct.
You can no longer target the Stoneforge Mystic.
Can't target the Delver either.
And the Stoneforge is lethal.
Yes.
So one more turn of gasping for air, I suppose.
Yeah, it's funny too because if they end up drawing, which was the original result, maybe one of them makes it, maybe one of them doesn't.
Because it was a speculated idea at the beginning of the round.
Can't target the Stoneforge. That's why the sword's good.
Whoa.
Yep.
Let's back up.
That's why the sword's good. That's why it's good. Pro blue. You can retarget.
Yeah.
The sword. There you go. An attack here for 4. Going to put Naskrent down to 1. All right. Turn 4 of extra turns. Draw. Entomb. Blank magic card.
Yep.
There's a Brainstorm. Time to run perfect. 2, 3.
Found another Brainstorm.
2 cards go back. Careful study. 1, 2. Buy. Clearing for the new Brainstorm. Yep. 1, 2, 3. That's it. On turn 4 of extra turns, Josh Guibault's going to win this match over John Naskrent. 2 games to 1. Blue-Red Red Delver is going to defeat Reanimator